there were 4 million people who declared themselves faithful of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. And at the very beginning, there was only one church building that they had to use. So, the question is, what would you do if you were found in this situation? You don't have churches, you don't have priests, and you have 4 million faithful suddenly who come out of the woodwork. And I just want to show you an example. 20 years later, we now have over 3,500 churches. There are even more parish communities, closer to 3,600. And also, there's over 2,000 priests who are working in Ukraine. And today, the topic of our conversation will be, how did we get there? So how did the church develop as an organization, and what is it doing now in response to the needs that it finds in Ukrainian society? So, usually when I talk about the development of the church, I focus on 3 different stages of development. The first stage is based on, I call it the parish level, building the parish level. And it was really focused around founding and registering parishes so that people would have places to worship. Also, they spent a lot of effort forming seminaries. There are now 4 seminaries in Ukraine. And also founding theological educational institutions that would be able to train people to be able to minister to the faithful. And another important component that happened during that first stage is the renewal of monasteries. So the second stage is the next level of organization in the church. It was time that was spent building the eparchial structures. So these are diocesan administrative structures that help to coordinate the very local work of the church. So there was a lot of effort spent in setting up these eparchial administrations. Also important to note, there were 2 important things that happened at this time. One is the development of key pastoral areas. The church began to strategically put people and put programs in to develop both a catechetics and youth ministry, because they saw that as what was needed for the future of the church. And also important in this period of time is you begin to notice the development and initiatives of charitable activity. With the formation of Caritas, which is the social arm of the church, works on various social issues in Ukraine, but also several local parishes began to show initiatives and to plan programs. I can give you an example. There's a parish in Lviv that has an active women's group. Somehow they were able to get an apartment. They took the apartment and they remade it into an after-school program for children who were in crisis situations, so either in single-parent homes or children who are living with grandparents, so that they would have a place to come after school. They would get a good meal, and somebody would help them with their homework and general mentoring. So these kinds of small initiatives were already starting to pop up in Ukraine during this period of time. And then we come to the third stage, which is the formation of the next level of organizational structure. It's the formation of the Patriarchal Curia. And the Curia is an umbrella organization which is called to serve the rest of the church. Yeah? And I think what's important here to note, and how I think it makes the church very unique, is that this is not an authoritarian structure that's being imposed from above. This is something that's being created by the eparchies to help them, to coordinate, to network. It's an example, I think, of organizational structure that serves the people, it serves the organization that created it. And in fact, again, it's important, I think, that it's being created from below. Okay. So, and what are the tasks of the Patriarchal Curia as they were defined by the Synod of Bishops? obviously the first task is to serve the head of the church, the Synod of Bishops, and the eparchies, to help them to implement new programs, to help ministry to grow. A lot of times this involves setting up trainings for people, organizing conferences, doing any kind of administrative work that needs to be done for the head of the church, and also helping the Synod of Bishops who make various decisions during their meetings to be able to implement these decisions. There needs to be an executive arm of the church which implements the decisions. The second point is the important step, I think, of building cooperation with government agencies and other denominations. I think that this happens everywhere in the church all over the world, but I think it's particularly important in Ukraine, where the government and society are still figuring, not society, the government and the church are still figuring out how to relate to one another after a very long period of estrangement. And the third point is representing the church at various international organizations and gatherings, which is another important aspect. So, as to the development of the church, this is what the Curia looked like in 2002. It's a small organizational chart. You'll see it was just a handful of people that His Beatitude Ljubomir Huzar gathered around himself just to lay the foundation of the Curia. These were the beginning stages. They lasted about until 2005. In 2005, there was an important event. It was the transfer of the see of the head of the church from Lviv to Kyiv. This was I would say, a significant event that happened, and the Curia experienced its first real growth spurt at this time. And today, as you can see, this is how the Curia has developed. These are the different departments. You can see that it's grown considerably. And what I'd like to point out, I'll point it out from here, is there are three things I think that we're going to focus on today. The first, if you'll notice, the third column is the Secretariat, and at the bottom there's a Bureau on Government Relations. So we have a bureau that works on relations with the government, and in particular in issues on Catholic schools, private schools in Ukraine, and also on social issues. Right to the left of that is the Department of Military Chaplaincy, and they also work with the government to develop chaplaincy in these various areas. And they also work with the people on the ground, local people who are actually doing the ministry, providing training for them. And then one more over is the Department of Commissions. And we'll switch to that right now. And the Department of Commissions, as you can see, is quite a substantial list of different issues that the church works on. I'm not going to go through and list all of them, but there are 14 commissions that work on various pastoral areas. And as His Beatitude Ljubomir was setting up the structure, I think that this particular setup of developing commissions was a brilliant idea. It's based on a small administration. There's usually 1 or 2 point people who are assigned to be the head of a commission, and the rest of the members of the commission are all local eparchial representatives. And the goal for this is to keep a tight connection between the top and what's happening on the local level, to make sure that the top is organizing the kinds of programs that will be helpful to the local level. And again, I think a key thing here is assigning somebody who is very concretely responsible for the development of a particular area in Ukraine. So, now how do the commissions work? The commissions have a basic strategy that pretty much everybody follows. Not necessarily in this order, but pretty much everybody goes through these 4 different elements. The first is obviously identifying problems. If you're going to do something, you have to know why you're doing it. Yes? So identifying problems. And the second is analyzing the situation. And here I think it's important is taking stock